Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and last night I saw Kung Fu Panda 4, which is a series that, I've seen the first two movies so many times. I love them so much, and for reasons I don't even know, I never bothered to watch the third one. I think while it was coming out, other things were coming out in theaters, and I never got around to it. So, like in the minutes leading up to going to the theaters to see number 4, I was watching number 3 on Netflix, which, by the way, hey, it's on Netflix if you want to go watch it. But in any case, yeah, I love all these movies. They're all great. They all have like their, the choreography, the humor, it all works, right? Something I really do appreciate about the movies that I feel like a lot of animated children's movies maybe don't do all the time is that every entry, it does feel like they're trying to give Poe a new arc, and they're trying to make him grow and become something more than what he was in the previous one, because it is a bunch of kung fu homages. So, I don't want to say parodies, but it is like a lot of classical kung fu movie type things happening in each of these movies. So by the third movie, Poe had already become like so powerful in his kung fu. It's like, well, where do you even take this character now? And so I do enjoy the direction that they found for him to go in this one, because now he's such a master of kung fu. The big obstacle here is like, okay, but what if he has to deal with change of not being the warrior anymore? What if his role needs to shift into being more of a spiritual wisdom leader instead of being the guy who's gonna go out there and fight everyone? He has to become the next Oogway, instead of just remaining the badass dragon warrior, right? And so he's very resistant to that, and he's being told that he has to pick a successor. And if you've seen the trailers, you pretty much know exactly where this is gonna go, right? Like, they introduce a new character and you're like, oh gee, I wonder who's gonna be the next dragon warrior. And yeah, it all does kind of play out exactly how you think it would. Something else about this movie that, it's not too much of a negative, because we do get to spend a lot of time with other characters, and the movie really is a road trip between Poe and this Fox character that they introduce. And then the B plot is really Poe's two dads taking the same road trip, like just behind them, trying to follow them and save Poe, because they're all worried about this Iguana villain, right? But the one thing about it is that because it's so focused on these two characters, the fearsome five, or whatever they're called, the 5 friends, the tigress and monkey and all of them, they're not in this movie. Like early on in the movie, they established like, oh, they're off doing other adventures, they're doing this and doing that. They do not show up in this movie until the end credits, and it's only during a montage. They don't actually speak a line, so it does kind of, it's pretty obvious that they couldn't get, either they couldn't get the voice actors back to even do like a short little cameo or something, or or they had so much other stuff they wanted to focus on in this one to make it more of a personal like road trip thing that they just didn't bother. I don't know. And it did kind of feel like this one was missing that element of it, because he's grown with this group of friends that we've come to know, and they become staples of this franchise, the 5 group of people here. So to not have them in this movie really at all, it was an interesting choice. I wonder if it'll kind of bother some people. It was fine, I think, especially because of the journey that Poe's going on. It's all about change, right? So I guess not even having his friends around to do this, okay, it is change, So anyways, there is that. Speaking of voice actors, something interesting here. So the villain, the Iguana, her whole thing is that she's trying to get the staff that Master Oogway had given Poe at the end of the last movie, because it can open a door to the spirit realm, and her whole thing is that she can steal kung fu abilities somehow, through her like sorcery magic. That's her whole thing. She's a sorcerer, right? She's kind of like Shang Tsung. If I have to make a Mortal Kombat comparison, she's basically the Shang Tsung of this universe. She transforms, she uses magic, she can steal kung fu abilities instead of souls. But yeah, she's Shang Tsung. That's what she is. Anyways, her her plan is to open up the spirit world, get all like the worst bad guys from the past movies, and steal their kung fu abilities. That way she'll become a kung fu master, because, you know, I guess when she was trying to become one, no one would let her because she's so small. She's like a tiny iguana, you know. And so this is, of course, you know, you see the poster, you see the trailer, you get Tai Lung and a handful of the other bad guys all back. Tai Lung is the only one who talks, you know, so it's clear that, like, okay, they got that voice actor to come back, and he says, you know, a significant amount of lines, but he stays mostly like trapped in a cage once he's freed from the spirit realm. And there's this interesting sort of finality to this movie, you know, obviously because Poe's being told he's no longer the Dragon Warrior, he has to move on to the spiritual role, but also, like, all the previous bad guys get brought back, even though only one of them talks. And there's this sort of like mutual respect thing happening, because they're trapped in these cages from this new villain. And so, you know, at first they're like, oh, Poe, you can't do anything. Ooh, Wei made a mistake choosing you. But of course, at the end, when, you know, the good guys win, there's this sort of mutual respect, like, okay, maybe you're not so bad. So, like, even the villains from like the first and second and third movie are all kind of like having this newfound respect for Poe. And it feels like it, you know, it just kind of all came full circle, right? Like, even the original villain, whose whole thing was like, oh, I should have been the Dragon Warrior, you know, like, even he's like, okay, fine, maybe you're not so bad, you know. So basically what I'm getting at is, if they wanted to end it here, if they wanted to say, like, this is the last Kung Fu Panda thing we're ever making, which I know they probably won't, it feels like they easily could, you know. They very, very easily could have made like this the end of it. But yeah, just this one, it feels like a much more personal journey, because you're dealing with just two characters for the majority of the movie, just going on a road trip. And of course, when the big betrayal happens, spoiler alert, you know, it's revealed, and you know, while you're watching the movie, you can catch this on pretty early, that the fox, who seems to know all this information about the villain and seems to know exactly where the villain is, even though no one's ever heard of her, and knows exactly what's going on, it's like, oh, it's because she's working for the villain. Anyways, but yeah, of course, she turns good, and then she helps Poe get out of whatever predicament he's in, and then now she's the one who's chosen to be the next Dragon Warrior. So I guess my only question here is, because, you know, I highly doubt this is the last one. They're definitely going to make more, or they're gonna, I think there's like a Netflix TV show or something. In any case, they're gonna be more entries in this franchise. So I guess from this point on, Poe would be a teacher to this fox girl specifically, while she becomes the next Dragon Warrior. And you know, I just hope that they keep on finding ways for Poe to evolve, right? Because now, you know, we kind of already had the idea that, oh, he has to be a teacher in the third movie, but I guess, you know, it's a much more personal, like, master apprentice thing happening in this one. So, you know, I'm kind of curious where this goes from here. Like once Poe ascends to the spirit realm, Oogway style, it feels like a story's kind of over, right? Like, I think that's kind of the end of it. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie. It did feel like it was kind of missing the main crew a little bit. And I don't know if this one is necessarily shorter than any of the other ones, but it did kind of feel shorter. You know, I'll check the runtime. It might just be the same, but I think because it's a much more simplified story, it feels a little shorter. But you know what? Hey, it's got the humor, it's got the choreography, it's got appearances from some of the past villains, and you know, that was kind of interesting to see, like, it all come full circle in that way. So yeah, you know, if you like the other three movies, you'll like this one perfectly fine. But yeah, not having Poe be the warrior, it's probably the most growth you can make this. It's a significant amount of growth for the character, and it makes it not feel just like a pointless, like, okay, we just had to make another one. You know, it does feel like, okay, they have a direction for this character to go. After this, I don't know what you do after this. It feels kind of like the end. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about Kung Fu Panda 4, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.